A pleasant good morning to you, the members of the media, and we welcome you here again to Congress Place for another week's press briefing. With me today is Mr. Norton, Central Executive Member, and he will be reading today's remarks. So without further ado, I hand over to Mr. Norton.
Good morning. The PPP must run on their record and not promises. The People's Progressive Party, led by its dishonest presidential candidate Farnum, is ashamed of their abysmal performance during the 23 years in government. It is now clear that the PPP is trying to run away from its 23 years of misrule, corruption, and division. The PPP record is so sordid that they can boast about nothing. So they have resorted to lies and empty promises in an attempt to get the electorate to forget their 23 years of chaos, confusion, and corruption. The People's National Congress reform will not allow the PPP to run away from their record. It is theirs, and they must run on that record. Apart from the daily lies the PPP continues to make, the PPP continues to make outlandish promises to its core supporters and the general electorate, knowing full well that they will not keep them. Anyone listening to the pronouncements made by the PPP would think that this was a brand new political party and not the old worn-out PPP that misruled Guyana for 23 years. Before being voted out of office in 2015, just 4 short years ago. Farnum and his dishonest cronies are attempting to reinvent themselves. But we all know that this is the same old PPP. Like the old saying goes, you can't put lipstick on a pig. You can put lipstick on a pig, but it will still be a pig. It is a fact that while in government, the PPP and their cronies consider themselves to be above the law. The former Attorney General Anil Nandlal is before the courts in the law book scandal. Farnum, its presidential candidate, is before the courts facing 19 charges. It is a fact that the State Asset Recovery Agency is currently investigating how oil blocks were given to companies that do not have any experience in petroleum exploration. These blocks were awarded by President Ramatar just days before the May 2015 general and regional elections. Intelligence suggests that these blocks are held by known PPP associates through offshore shell companies. It is a fact that the PPP's 25 years in office was punctuated by scandal after scandal. To name a few, those being the stone scam, the milk scam, the gold scam, the law books scam, the remigrant duty-free vehicle scam, the Crane Grove Conservancy Dam scam, the IAST scam, the wildlife scam, the export of dolphins scam, the polar bear scam, the Gaisuko scam, the fiber optic cable scam, among many others. This is the real PPP. And we must never allow this type of lawlessness to return to government. This is their real record, and they must defend it. It is a fact that during the PPP 23 years in government, the World Bank's Worldwide Governance Indicator reflected the government corruption was a serious problem. It is a fact that while in office, assets acquired by senior PPP government officials and corrupt business people bore no relationship to their incomes and earnings. One only has to look at the mansion that Farnum, after just 3 years as a government minister, acquired. In fact, the PPP has an unenviable track record of lies and broken promises. During a recent interview, the dishonest Farnum promised to reopen closed sugar estates, create 50,000 new jobs, get rid of the value-added tax, and return free tertiary education. But the biggest lie of them all was Irfan Ali's claim that the PPP had always kept the promises they made in their election manifestos. In the first instance, the PPP was given $348 billion by the European Union to protect sugar workers' jobs and strengthen GYSM. The PPP chose to squander that money on vanity projects other than investing in sugar workers and preparing the industry for the end of the EU sugar subsidy. In the end, the PPP resorted to closing the Diamond, LBI, and Wales estates. Now, with the finale and the PPP, the same people who destroy the sugar industry in Guyana are promising to miraculously reopen the closed estate. You hear lie? In 2007, the PPP introduced a 16% value-added tax. The dishonest PPP now wants Guyanese to believe that if elected to office, they will get rid of that. The PPP introduced hefty tuition fees for University of Guyana students. Now the PPP wants you to believe that if elected to office, they will remove university fees after 5 years, more lies. The PPP has an unenviable track record of failing to deliver on their election promises. The PPP in their 2011 manifesto told Guyanese that they will hold local government elections. The PPP never held local government elections. The PPP promised to create 25,000 high-quality jobs in the ICT sector. The PPP never delivered. Instead, Guyana lost billions of dollars in a failed fiber optic scam. In their manifesto, the PPP promised the people of Linden 1,000 new jobs in the bauxite sector and 800 new jobs in the forestry sector. That never happened either. The PPP promised to open call centers in Enmore, Tushen, Quarantine, and on the Essequibo coast, which they boasted that this would create 5,000 new jobs. Never happened. Other manifesto promises, like the deep water harbor at the mouth of the Berbice River, the plantain chip factory in Wakenham, and the cereal plant at Anna Regina, were all empty promises. The PPP had their time, and their track record proves that they are dishonest, unscrupulous, and too incompetent to govern in the interests of all the people of Guyana. Since President Granger's election to office, Guyana has begun moving in the right direction. President Granger has always ensured that the coalition government is working for all Guyanese, regardless of ethnicity, geography, gender, party affiliation, or class. Together, let us keep moving. At the next election, the PNCR urges all Guyanese to vote APNU AFC to ensure a better future for all Guyanese. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Norton. All right, so the floor is now open for questions from the media. Who would like to go first?
Samuel Sugnanton, News Source.
Yeah.
So your party or the government plans to create more jobs. The PPP is saying 50,000. You're saying this is impossible. How many jobs does the coalition plan to create, if not 50,000?
Well, first of all, I don't think one should run down the road of giving a figure just from the skies of 50,000. What we do know for sure is that some of the industries we have targeted will generate employment. We know, for instance, that we intend to take a lot of young people or give them an opportunity of coming off the road through the youth corps, something which I see they are now saying they will do when for years they oppose a youth corps national service. I would say to you as well that we have begun that process. We have never said we will do it solely by jobs. We have always said there will be a two-pronged approach. On the one hand, we will create jobs directly, and on the other hand, we will create the avenues for people to be involved in business and also generate jobs for Guyanese. something like that is very difficult to say this is the figure. But what we've seen already is that many of the young people and other persons we have put into business would have generated jobs for young people and people generally. What I would say to you is this, that the government is going to use the resources at its disposal to ensure it creates jobs that are paying. It's not just solely creating jobs. I can create a job for you and give you $40,000, and it's not much, but we're talking about jobs that will pay, and the government is committed to that. I don't want to go and say this is a figure. I will prefer when you meet with the finance minister, who will have all the details. You can ask that question and get details, and I doubt he will tell you 50,000 or 30,000 or 40,000. And I should add, if for 23 years you fail to create 50,000 jobs, how in your first 5 years you're going to create it? And I don't think they will suggest the oil and gas industry, because statistics will show you that a lot of the benefits that come from the oil and gas industry is not necessarily through direct employment. It's through business and a number of other variables. So I believe anybody just running on the road saying they can create 50,000 jobs in 5 years basically is doing what Irfan continues to do all the time, to lie. I reminded people that this is a man who told the House of Assembly while I was Shadow Minister Housing that he created 20,000, he gave Londoners 20,000 house lots. And I asked him, I said, on average in Guyana, there are 4 persons per house lot. If you give 20,000 people house lots, it means you should have catered for 80,000 people. Linden doesn't have 65,000 people. How then you have a backlog of applications for house lot? He's just one of the persons who's dishonest and has problems being in the same corner with the truth.
Shalom Brock, News Talk Radio Guyana, the Waves. Sir, one of the sore issues to ordinary Guyanese, or every Guyanese I should say, is GPL. And the successive governments have had problem solving GPL's issues. The manifesto might soon be launched. What is the party articulating in terms of bringing relief to Guyanese with reference to power supply?
Well, I can only here repeat what was said by the Minister of Public Infrastructure who has responsibility. I think the question should be posed to him, but I would say this to you at present. One, clearly the government has developed an approach, strategy, which says we cannot depend solely on fuel. And so there will be an approach in which where wind gas is appropriate, wind energy, wind will be used. Where solar is appropriate, solar will be used. As it relates to GPL, there are a number of problems that I know of. The minister put it this way. He said they cannot be solved in the short term. It needs a structured approach to solving them. And I believe the government will take a structured approach. I think the approach the previous government took is that it is solely a generation problem, but it's generation, distribution, a number of problems. But like I said, I will prefer a matter like that to be dealt with in depth by the minister responsible for GPL.
Does the government launch an inquiry, which are very prevalent now, into GYSM and the 340 billions or whatever was given by EU that this administration is claiming that was squandered by the former administration, to ascertain what really that money was used for in GYSM?
Well, I believe the government approaches. One, to ask the PPP to account for it. We know, for instance, from the media that they give GAU millions out of it to do what we don't know. I believe the government having asked them to account for the money, I believe the government would have already investigated GYSM generally. But as it relates to the specific position as to whether they will launch an investigation, you know that falls within the domain of the President of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana.
To make it kind of critical, where does the PNC get the figure 348 million from?
You can get it from any one of the
Billion.
EU documents.
The EU documents I have come across have said 34.8 billion, but I see the PNC continues to say 348 billion. So I'm not sure where the breakdown is coming
It's
from.
probably an error.
Okay.
Yes, the first time I actually did a press conference, I said 34.8. I'll double check it anyhow. 348 seems, 34.8 billion. In fact, one document carried 34.6. One carried 34.8.
Sir, again, standard. Mr. Norton, you said that the PPP has an issue in delivery.
Please raise your voice a little for me.
Yeah, Suraj Naik from the gas standard. You said that the PPP has issues in delivering on some of its promises that it makes in its manifesto. Is the PNCR comfortable at where it is right now in terms of delivering on its promises that it made in the 2015 general elections?
Well, first of all, it is not the PNCR that said that the PPP, it is the presidential candidate who said in the public domain, the PPP delivers on all of its election promises. We've just given you a sample. I'm telling you what the promise I choose that they never deliver. I'm telling you what they promise the communities. So the point that is being made here is that here is a dishonest person knowing full well that they haven't delivered on many of their promises, telling this nation that we deliver on all the promises we made. What's the second part of the question?
Is the PNCR comfortable with the promises that it would have delivered? Did it deliver all of its promises that it
All right. Let us start from the standpoint that no political party delivers all of the promises that they would have made. So, my position would be simply this. The PNC is satisfied that with the resources at its disposal, and here we talk about the same resources that the PPP had, we have delivered a lot of services. There are things that we didn't deliver that we promised. But if you look at drainage and irrigation and compare the money they spent with what we spent and the results we would have gotten, you will see that we are superior. If you drive Guyana now, you see water flowing in the drains, canal, trench, call it what you want. Irrigation is being improved. So we're saying in that area we have delivered. We promised Guyanese at the last election that we will deliver on water. We didn't give all the communities, and we can't in 4 years. But it's a fact that many of the communities that the PPP did not give any water to, we delivered to. Farnum, parts of Linden, while they were claiming to be spending billions on water, they were not delivering. Apart from actually delivering water, we promised to improve the quality of water. We did a lot of training. Many GWI personnel went overseas, and we have delivered quality water in many communities. We promised that we will deal with the problem of maternal deaths. You will recall when we came to power in 2015, it was the norm of the day for there to be maternal deaths at the hospitals. We have taken action, and there has been a marked reduction in maternal deaths. We said we were going to restore law and order and reduce crime. Anyone who's reasonable will accept that they walk and feel much freer in Guyana now. We haven't solved crime. Nobody can solve it in 4 years. But what we did, first, we improved the investigative capacity of the police. And so if you commit murder or commit any crime, there is a higher probability now that you will be caught. Imagine if the PPP was in power with a young man that was thrown across the road, allegedly, for which Bisram has been extradited to Guyana for. Had the PPP been in power with his links to the leadership of the PPP, etc., that would have been a dead case. So we are saying we have improved the investigative capacity of the police. We are professionalizing the police force. It's not there as yet, but anybody moving around will see more policemen on the road. They're doing their jobs better. Every police force will have barracks. Where it became obvious that necessary, many of them were removed. The crime basically has been reduced. We're not saying there's no crime. Any reasonable Guyanese will accept that there are less gun crimes now. And rarely are you hearing about crimes with machine guns, etc. We have put in place a network of cameras which will contribute to both deterrence of crime and, where it occurs, solution. And so I'm saying to you, we are comfortable that we delivered on the law and order promise. Rice, though we're making noise about agriculture, for those of you who go to the Rupununi, before 2015, you didn't see cattle in the Rupununi in the way you saw it years ago. If you go now, you'll see the reemergence of the cattle industry. Manufacturing was destroyed by the previous government. You can go and see the amount of young people and other Guyanese that are involved in agro-processing. I can continue all day. Who will doubt that we deliver a better quality of roads than the People's Progressive Party did? They couldn't finish. East Bank went into probably 8 years. The East Coast Start never moved. It is this government that has shown the capacity to, with the same resources, deliver roads and quality roads. So I'm saying to you, we are satisfied as it relates to the promises we made. We are satisfied that with the similar resources that the PPP had, because we didn't get our money yet, we have utilized it, and because we have reduced corruption, again, I haven't said got rid of corruption, we have reduced corruption to the point where Transparency International just put out a graph, and you've seen that Guyana's corruption is on the decline. But because we have worked on corruption, you are getting more value for money. So you're getting better roads, etc. I want to submit that unless it is Stevie Wonder, people will see that in 4 years, this government deliver many goods and services than the People's Progressive Party. And mind you, I touch youth, what we have done in the area of youth, where we've trained a lot of young people. We have opened night schools so children on the quarantine can go Linden, Sue's. Like, I can go on all day about the deliverables. One of the hallmarks of this administration that people should accept is that with all the protests that they have had, we have never instructed the police to kill anyone. In the 23 years of the PPP, you had to have guts, Guyanese say you got to got belly. You had to got belly to protest. And I was a protester. I have no apologies for it. But you protested with weapons pointing at you. This government has allowed people to protest to the point where they became ridiculous and wanted to disrespect the president. Fortunately, the president was unbothered.
So we can run it down, One of the issues currently in the news a lot is the road fatalities. And we see some calls for retesting of drivers and speaking towards the issue of buying of license, driver's license and stuff like that. Is there anything in place to address that issue with our roadways and the amount of debts we have and the buying of license issue? Have we done anything about that?
The question of road safety and fatal accidents has to be addressed at different levels. The first level, and I'm not saying in order, is the individual. You can put all the things in place. If there isn't individual responsibility and people recognizing that speeding is a problem, no matter how you could drive, if you are driving at a certain rate, you're in deep trouble. So that will demand education, and I believe some action will be taken in that area. Secondly, you are dealing with a Ghana police force that you're seeking to change. The young policemen coming in, you have to do your best, improve their wages and salaries, educate them so that they eschew bribery. Because it is obvious where there is bribery, people will feel they can do things on the road and get away with it rather than the law being enforced. The third element we mentioned, I did recall that some action was taken as it relates to the driver's test. They have been able to tighten that up so that people don't get false results. I saw in the press that they will now improve the driver's license with more features, etc., which I believe will go far in ensuring you don't have fake license, etc. But I would say to you in gist that this question is a question that has to be handled at the individual level, the level of the ministry, the level of the society. People report to me, and I do believe them, and I see it on Facebook, that when drivers are speeding and they talk, people in the bus tell them they could come out if they want, they're in this bus, etc. So we also have to deal with people's perception. This society has decayed, and therefore you have to rebuild it at the moral and other levels. And I think the societal decay has gone as far as into the traffic arena. So I don't want to suggest to you that's a simple matter. The President has outlined a plan for dealing with it, and I believe that action will be taken to deal with it, because the most valuable resource in any society is the human resource. I sat at a gas station and a woman was talking about how Eastman was a good man, but he's dead. So we have to really and truly take a grip of it and seek to produce a new culture as it relates to driving, public transportation, etc.
And one last one, sir. The question of body cam for police officers was raised before. Do you see the need now for that to be
Look,
fast?
the world is moving in that direction. I don't know, I can't comment on whether we have the resources to do it at present. But I would see no harm if they are body cams, which will help. I believe anything that will help so that the governance system in the country improve should be there, because your real objective is to give people a better life through good, proper governance. So while I have not heard the government pronounce on body cam, at the PNC level, we haven't discussed it so that I can say this is a party position. What I'm saying to you is based on my analysis of the situation. I don't see why it would be opposed if we have the resources at our disposal to deal with it. And don't forget, whenever you're dealing with a country like Guyana, it's a question of allocation of resources, because your resources are scarce. And Guyana is a funny place. Though drones perform different functions to helicopter, somebody will come and tell you could buy helicopters. Even though the purpose for which the drones were purchased was significantly different from the functions you want helicopter to perform. Don't forget, this is Guyana. Kaicho News, I think it was carried, that a man bought land in Georgetown, 3 times the size of Georgetown. That's a practical impossibility, but people bought it.
All right, thank you. Any more questions? Any more questions? No? All right, well, let's take this time. I'd like to thank Mr. Norton for taking time out of his busy schedule to be here today with us and to answer questions to the best of his ability on behalf of the party. Thank you again for coming, and see you next week.